Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to our viewers in Tupelo, Mississippi. My name is Ray Shoemaker, and I am a board member of Project Elect. Project Elect is a nonpartisan organization that focuses on community development. We focus on those things, whether they're politics, whether they're education, whether they're economic. Our goal is to get the information out into the community and serve as a conduit to facilitate change. Project Elect stands for Enthusiastic Leaders Engaging in Changing Times. And oh, by the way, we live in changing times. Today we have with us a candidate for the Tupelo mayor's race. First, I want to thank you, Mr. Flietis, for joining me today to talk about your race and your candidacy.
Thank you very much for the invitation, sir.
Absolutely. We are very pleased to meet with you and to hear from you as it relates to your platform. And there are some issues and challenges that all communities face. And I think our audience will be eager to hear how you would address those issues in this city.
Absolutely. I welcome the opportunity.
The first question, who is Victor Flietis?
Victor Flietis is the son of Israel Victor Flietis and Audia Velez Flietis. I am 54 years old. I have been a practicing attorney in Tupelo for 25 years in the areas of civil rights, employment law and employment discrimination, and felony criminal defense. And I'm your candidate for mayor.
Wonderful, wonderful. You know, I'd like to set the tone and let you know, as we want our audience to know, that Project Elect has started this journey in interviewing political candidates post any runoff. And so we know as of yesterday or late last night, maybe the numbers are still coming in, but sure, the numbers are final. We have our general election, their numbers and the candidates are set.
Yes, sir.
And to that end, Project Elect has and will invite every candidate for an opportunity to sit with us and talk about their platform.
It's only fair.
And so your opponent has also been invited to meet with us, and hopefully we'll see if he will respond to that invitation.
I hope so.
So, enthusiastic leaders engaging in changing times. Tupelo is not immune to the challenges that we face in Mississippi, in our domestic and even our international environment.
Sir.
I will say that Tupelo is Mississippi's sixth largest city, depending on what numbers you review. And Tupelo has been known to be the all-American city. It's a wonderful place to live. Having said that, the first question I have for you is surrounding or around economic growth and development. With the success that Tupelo's had in the most recent years, what would be your view or your stance or your platform to advance, first sustain the level where Tupelo currently sits, but also how would you move Tupelo to that next step?
Well, if we look at the numbers that are coming out regarding how Tupelo was able to move forward economically even during the COVID environment, I would say you don't want to fix what's not broken. Those numbers were fantastic. We have economic development going on in the downtown area, which is fantastic. A major thoroughfare is providing the arteries and the veins for movement within the city that encourages growth. My platform would like to see that growth expanded and moved into every ward in our city so that every citizen can take advantage of the Tupelo experience and the benefits that this city can provide. So I would like to see broader economic development targeted in each ward and moving each ward forward.
Absolutely. You said something there, and I want to drill into that question, that answer. You said for all. And so when we look at economics, one of the things that I am focused on is economic equity. And how does that look under your leadership for all, and that is we live in a diverse community, and we live in a growing community that continues to grow in its diversity. How does the economic growth line up with economic equity under your plan?
I would say, first of all, equal opportunity is one of my platform items. And that means equal opportunity not only in the general sense of how we react and treat one another, but it means equal opportunity with respect to government contracts. It means equal opportunity with respect to city services. There can't be one standard of service in one part of the city and a different standard in the other. And it means equal opportunity with respect to employment and all opportunities. I think if you make that the touchstone of your campaign, and you promise that you're going to deal with all issues on the basis of equity and fairness, you've got the start of that engine to promote all businesses to flourish and grow in all communities, because we need small businesses throughout the entire city.
Absolutely. So, I think we all afford an opportunity to review others' successes and some failures. Some may face challenges, some may continue to thrive. I look across the state of Mississippi and I think of central Mississippi. And I think of one of the biggest challenges they face in the central part of our state, whether it's the water crisis or whether it's something in that area. I began to have questions about infrastructure. And how does the story there, how do we prevent that story from being our story somewhere down the line? What is your thought on the infrastructure development in Tupelo?
First of all, Tupelo has probably the most envied program anywhere in this state and probably across several states with major thoroughfare.
Good.
That is a voluntary, voted on tax that the citizens agree is necessary so that we have the funds to build the roads and to develop our infrastructure. There's been general improvement and general funds used for improvements throughout the city, and there needs to continue to be. Infrastructure is a huge issue for me, and whether that means road repairs, whether that means drainage issues, any issues of those kinds are critically important to me, and we're blessed to have the major thoroughfare program. And that is what's permitting us to have the sort of growth in our roads to alleviate the traffic issues that come with growth. Tupelo is built to grow, and I want to see it grow. I want this experiment to continue. I want us to continue to grow, and I want every citizen here to benefit from it.
Awesome. Mr. Flietis, as I look across the city, I look initially, my initial thought, my initial review was of the city employed individuals, the city government in terms of employment. And as I've looked in a more deeper dive, I see there are opportunities for that employment to have a better representation of the composition of the citizens in Tupelo, Mississippi. What are your thoughts, and how do you deal with looking at the numbers and looking at the makeup of the background and the diversity in the city employment, and how would you address those issues if those numbers did indeed entail that there was a disparity between the community and the employment?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's possible that some studies have been done, and they may exist already, and certainly I would look at that. I would get with our HR. I would look at that. I would want to know what our applicant pools look like, what interest appears across the spectrum in various positions throughout the city. The main thing that I can do as CEO of the city is to ensure that all personnel decisions are based on criteria that are fair and that give everyone equal opportunity. I have been an employment lawyer for 25 years. I have advocated for fairness, equity, and equality in all employment decisions. And that's what anyone could expect from my administration, is to make sure that everybody has a fair shot at a job, everybody has a fair shot for a promotion.
Mr. Flietis, you have a unique background. And in many cases, some would say we all have pluses and minuses in our background. One of those things that kind of yield, if you will, that rise to the top is your political experience. This would be the first office that you saw. And my question is, what uniquely qualifies you to do the very best, to be a great leader, great mayor, great CEO of Tupelo, Mississippi?
Well, I'd like to say that it starts with my background and my education. I have always endeavored to study, to do well in school, to learn from my peers while in school. In my work, I have always endeavored to do quality work and to be doggedly committed to those causes and those cases that I've been involved in over the years. Anyone who knows me will probably say that my interactions with others have always been, even in very difficult and very fraught situations, courteous, gentlemanly, and appropriate. I'm not someone who has a temper. Not that I don't get mad, but I've never, the Greeks have a saying, those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make angry. And that's one of the things that I always consider in making decisions. And as a practicing attorney for 25 years, as someone who has been an employment lawyer, as someone who is familiar with justice issues, who has considered these issues of governance thoughtfully my entire life, based on my personal background and my family background, I'm ready on day one with plans to help our city do even better than it's done before. I'm excited at the opportunity, and I just want a chance to help this city move forward like it's never moved forward before. Together, united, one people, indivisible, with one voice, all moving for progress, all accepting one another, all living together harmoniously. Is it a dream? Of course. But why can't we work on making that dream happen daily? Why can't we make the world a better place, even in difficult situations and even in areas of conflict? That's my credo. That's how I've tried to live my life professionally, and that's what I hope to bring to City Hall.
Awesome. You know, Tupelo's a great place to live, and Tupelo's been very successful. But in any situation, nothing is perfect. Over the last 5-10 years, there have been things that occurred in the city of Tupelo where there is a need for healing and uniting and reuniting the city. And also areas where there are just walls that may limit and stymie growth. What is your plan, your thoughts on how to deal with those deeply rooted issues that are in need of healing or relationships that need to be built from the ground in our community?
I believe every one of those issues begins at the personal level, which is to say that every one of us as individuals must commit ourselves to having a dialogue with someone else, to treat each other with courtesy, to commit ourselves. Not to say that we don't recognize the physical differences that may exist between us, or the ideological differences, but to say that I'm going to recognize this person as a fellow human being with dignity, with worth. This is someone that I want to get to know. And in that tearing down of our own prejudices and predilections, we can move forward on an individual level. The role of the government is to ensure that there is equal opportunity across all of society, but the responsibility to be just and decent and kind to one another rests with every one of us. Now, how do we solve it? Whether it's the church, whether it's coming together in some way. And I see it happen every day. I chose to live in Tupelo. Being able to live anywhere else in the world, because I see so much that's good about it. And there's so much potential. And we really can do something special here in these Northeast Mississippi hills in terms of bringing people together. And it just starts at the top. And I am grateful to the prior administrations because I have the benefit of walking into a situation where prior administrations have done so much better than so many of the communities around here. There is a reason why Tupelo leads. It's because we have a history of good, sound governance. And we want that good, sound governance to continue. We have perhaps shined where others have failed to. We must continue to shine because the race is always ongoing.
Okay. There's a threat to Tupelo's success. And that threat is to allow our surrounding communities to gain, quite frankly. And what I mean by gain is to for us to lose business or other advantageous things that we've enjoyed the pleasures of having the last several years. One of the challenges, and as I look at one of the things that could potentially cause a challenge in our city, is the increase in sales tax. I'm aware, and there's been a hot button relating to the need to, and I'm going to get to that second part of the question, increase sales tax to build a jail or some other things. And while there, obviously a great degree of that is in the county's, discretion, and they'll have to make some decisions there. But what would you do to have a voice and to try to mitigate that impact on the local citizens from a sales tax increase that could potentially cause just a decomposition or degrading of our business community here in Tupelo, Mississippi?
I've not spoken to one business owner who was in favor of a sales tax increase. I've opposed it from the beginning, quite frankly, because we don't have good answers. There has been insufficient forthrightness about why these taxes are being proposed. And we have to have good answers. We can't make public policy in the dark. We have to know exactly why this burden is being asked to be imposed upon the citizens. And without those answers, there's no way that I could support something that I consider to be detrimental to sound business practice. So for that reason, I've been on the record as being opposed to it. In all fairness, the legislature has not enacted it, so for now, it's dead. But it can be brought up at any time during a special session or another legislative session. So it's still an issue that we may still need to confront and need to address. The county will have to go back and come up with some other proposal for the suggested 400-bed, $80 million jail that was proposed by the consultant. Outside of requesting a significant increase in property taxes, which will affect every citizen within the city of Tupelo, I don't know how they get there. And I don't know that the justification exists for those taxes to be imposed based on that project. I'm just completely unconvinced at this point, and I would need better answers. And I would welcome the opportunity to sit down with anyone who proposes it and talk corrections and talk jails, because I've spent 25 years studying jails, studying corrections. I know the terminology, and I have some issues with some of the terminology that was used during the presentation at the county. So I want answers, and I think the citizens of Tupelo deserve those answers. And I know how to get those answers if others are forthcoming.
Awesome. I want to ask you a question as it relates to law enforcement. There's obviously, as we look, and we can turn to any station whether it's radio, TV, or on Facebook, we see what's going on in our world, in our country.
Sure.
And in many cases, we're thankful that we're not there at this moment. However, this city has had its bumps and bruises, and there is a time of review and change or analysis of our system as relates to law enforcement. What are your thoughts and your position on community-oriented policing?
I'm a huge proponent of community-oriented policing. I can tell you a real example of an individual who called the police because they had their house burgled. Anybody will tell you that a home burglary is a high priority offense that you want to investigate and get to the bottom of, because that's an offense that involves going into someone's home. It's an offense that involves a higher degree of probability of there being fatal or bad outcomes. So this individual calls the police, and in a purely discretionary act, the officer runs a warrant on the person whose house had been burgled. And the person reporting the burglary to the police ends up going to jail because they called the police. Tell me how you're going to get a community to outreach when we have serious crime issues when they don't want to reach out to the police. And the act of checking the warrant was purely voluntary. And if the officer had done it, the officer could just as well have said, "Sir, here's a citation. If you would, sir, contact the city court. You need to take care of this tomorrow." Just to give you a heads up. Because officer discretion always exists. You can choose as an officer to exercise your discretion to let a minor indiscretion go. Or you can choose to turn a minor indiscretion into something more serious. So, community-oriented policing is designed to keep that sort of thing from happening. Prioritizing. Burglary is more important than a warrant based on a traffic offense when someone failed to appear. And so you have to prioritize. And it needs to be implemented. Officers struggle, any officer will tell you that the calls they hate to go on are your DDs, directly addressing the root problem in that home. Whether it will ultimately involve DHS intervention, referral to a mental health agency, counseling, whatever the case may be. You can get better outcomes that way. You can implement implicit bias training. You can emphasize training on crisis intervention. You can have better training. And with better training, you have better outcomes. Because my goal as mayor is that we do not experience the issues that we have seen happening around this country, and that we all remember several years ago occurring again. Because as mayor, with the chief of police and an excellent police administrative staff and command staff, we keep those problems from ever happening because we're on top of them from day one.
Okay. Mr. Flietis, as we move to a close, you have been very clear about dreaming and having a vision and maintaining and going beyond. But at some points, a dream becomes a reality. The general election is fastly approaching, and at that point that you're deemed potentially the winner of the mayor's race, what does your first 100 days look like as the mayor of All-American City, Tupelo, Mississippi?
The first act of the mayor, once elected, is to select the place of and time of the swearing in of the city council and the mayor. The first act I will do, if I am blessed to be elected, is I will go to Father Tim Murphy and I will ask him if he would do a mass to bless the new city officials, all of us together. and then get sworn in. And then from there, I think, and I've had this discussion with some department heads, with the department heads, there's a learning curve anytime you take on something new. You cannot build starting with destruction. There is a good administrative staff and department heads in place in this city. For 90 days, I'm going to go in and I'm going to assess, I'm going to learn, I'm going to meet these individuals. I'm going to see what they want to do as individuals with respect to their own personal career, when they may be planning on moving on to other opportunities. I'm going to work with those department heads. I'm going to learn who's ready to step up where vacancies appear due to retirement, due to attrition, and put in a new police chief. There'll be a decision made on a new fire chief. I'm gonna keep the grant writer busy because the federal government has just said they're making funds through the Medicaid program available for just the crisis intervention teams that we've just been talking about. So we're gonna hit the ground running. We're gonna keep the city moving forward, but I'm going to be thoughtful. I'm going to be measured, and I'm gonna learn. And then as we do that, move the city forward on the pace that it's been going and faster. I'm very excited about getting to work with the new city council and really bring our city together.
Okay. And one last question. You know, the education system is the economic generator for any community. And while we have a great education system here in Tupelo, Mississippi, we know around us with respect to COVID and many other things, the workforce has changed forever. Well, how do you view forging a newly refined partnership with our local education system that then in turn creates an output of jobs that continually keeps our city competitive?
Well, as I've mentioned before, the first thing we need to emphasize is making sure that our education system is responsive to what young people feel is relevant and necessary to know today, and whether that involves robotics, whether that involves high-level technical training in skilled jobs, whether that involves learning about cryptocurrency, and looking at the new technologies, looking at where the jobs of the future are, partnering with the local businesses that have been involved in developing programs, working with our junior colleges to ensure good outcomes for our students. I think the community has a role to play there as well. Community groups, civic organizations like yours, going into the schools, professionals being engaged, showing young people all of the different paths that they can take, encouraging them and exciting them, because the truth of the matter is a lack of education is the greatest anchor that an individual can carry throughout their life. My ability to have flourished as a human being and to have done well has been a direct result of my commitment to education. We know that education leads to good outcomes, and we know that a lack of education leads to poor outcomes. So anything that we can do in the city, continuing doing what we're doing and looking at doing more. And whether that's working with the universities, I would like to see broader class selection by the universities available in Tupelo. I would like to see the junior colleges, as well as the colleges, increasing opportunities for our high school students to get dual credit, and you know, moving our students closer to those outcomes that lead to degrees and better jobs.
Mr. Flietis has been very insightful to interview you today.
Well, thank you, you're very kind.
Wish I had more time. But in close, is there anything you want to share with our viewers that we didn't cover in our interview today about Victor Flietis and his platform?
Maybe not so much about my platform, but what I want every voter in this city to know is that I absolutely love this city, and I will work tirelessly every day for every person in this city to make it better, to bring us together, and to ensure as many good outcomes as I can. Thank you.
I want to thank you again for your time and sitting down.
It's my pleasure.
Sitting down with me to talk over, challenges in the city of Tupelo in your campaign. I want to thank our viewers for listening in. Again, my name is Ray Shoemaker. I'm a board member of Project Elect, enthusiastic leaders engaging in changing times. Please like us on Facebook, share our video, and we will see you again soon. Thank you.
Mr. Shoemaker, thank you so much.